as I was, and come on, let's go run, man, let's go run to the mind, because he was training to be on the Detroit Lions football team at that time. That was his aspiration.
Marvin struggled to hold on to any remnants of his religious upbringing, was further challenged when he moved to Los Angeles in late 1972. While in an LA studio working on his new album, he met 16-year-old Janice Hunter.
I remember the first time he drove me home, the first time he kissed me, and we were standing at the bottom of my stairs, and he took my face in his hand, and I thought he was going to kiss me on the lips, and he kissed me on my forehead, and it was one of the sweetest kisses I've ever had, and that was really the beginning of our relationship.
When he met her, and Marvin fell in love. Or Marvin fell in lust. Marvin fell in lust. This very young teenage girl, she became amused to him. Then the shift from what's going on to let's get it on was about this tension between the spirit and the flesh. And Marvin Gaye is constantly torn between his due diligence when it came to his Pentecostal background, and for a while he staved off the big demon of sexual obsession nearly, and yet eventually he gave into it.
Let's Get It On, it was straight up sexual. It was about sexual freedom. It was about his sexual freedom. It was about what he felt about men and women and being physical, and he was not afraid to express any of it.
He understood sex on a certain level, and he understood how to use his voice to create a sexual environment. Like, I think I don't know if anybody is as sexy as Marvin Gaye.
After 2 successful albums, Marvin flexed his new clout within the company. He renegotiated his contract with Motown, demanding and getting his own studio and production company.
He loved that studio. That was his pride and joy. The way he would overdub his own voice, and the way he would make lyrics up as he go, and the way he would take instruments. I mean, it could be a fart, and he would hit it on something to give a sound. He was a genius in front of that dead microphone. Because he could do some things that people wouldn't realize. And Marvin's doing all the voices. In
the background and a lead, and there's a color background. It's 4 to 5 different harmony parts. And that's what you hear.
I think the irony about Marvin is that the different voices in his head, one whispering, love God, another whispering, get everything you can, these warring voices which tore him up, he was able to harmonize, literally harmonize in his art.
One-way love is just a fantasy. Oh, sugar, to share is precious, pure and fair.
With Janice, Marvin also discovered a new personal happiness. Though he was still married to Anna, he and Jan moved in together. They soon had a daughter, Nona, and a son, Franky.
He did have family values. as distorted as they may have been, and as dysfunctional as his own family was as he was growing up, he did his best to create his own family, to have his children around him, to have a home. And for us, it wasn't an easy thing to do because we were both heavily addicted to drugs and alcohol.
There's a lot of drugs in LA. You have hallucinogens, marijuana, coke. There's all kinds of pills going on out there. And Marvin was definitely a victim of that.
Marvin was pretty much a lifelong pot smoker, and it's not to the mid to late 70s that it gets deeper and deeper into cocaine.
Once you get into the cocaine pretty heavy, you'll go through money fast without even realizing it. We had gone on tour, 77. And next thing I know, I read in the papers that the Internal Revenue had come and confiscated everything at Marvin's house.
Marvin's extravagant lifestyle, his failed investments, and his expensive drug habit hastened his downward spiral. When Anna finally filed for divorce, he couldn't pay the alimony. His lawyer proposed an alternate solution.
This isn't a song.
Marvin's lawyer, Curtis Shaw, suggested in order to give Anna something, she would get the proceeds of his next album.
So he did an album called Hear My Dear that sold about 6. I laughed. That was the funniest album I'd ever heard in my life. I said, Marvin, what did you do on this album? He said, I just did what the judge told me to do.
And Hear My Dear is kind of, in a way, the dark side of, Let's Get It On. Let's Get It On is all, sex is good, sex is fun, you're hot. And that album apparently, everyone says was written about Jan. Hear My Dear, sex is not fun. Sex is dangerous and dark and leads you to bad places.
As he began this work, his initial attitude, I'm going to do something bad so she doesn't make any money, was trumped by, again, his artistic integrity. And he went for the truth.
He was not ready for that type of earnestness. Like, I don't understand if you love me, well, why would you turn me into the police? I feel like you're eavesdropping on a conversation or maybe just showing his private mutterings to himself,
And in Anna's song, again, he gives a kind of a mini history of their relationship.
It's just kind of like escalate. It's just so, it's opera.
And if you want to really get to know Marvin Gaye in the most personal way, you have to listen to Hear My Dear.
In October of 1977, after his divorce from Anna, Marvin finally married Jan. But it was too late. Their marriage was overwhelmed by drugs, debt, and infidelities. It lasted only 2 years.
You see a man wants to be a man.
One of the great contradictions about Marvin that he was never able to resolve was that he wanted simple domestic happiness, but at the very same time, he did all he could to undermine that happiness. His life was full of betrayal, most of which was his own creation. At the end of the 70s, marriage number 2 had fallen apart. He's at odds with Motown. Doesn't want to record for him anymore. He owes the IRS millions. He's out of money entirely. He goes to Hawaii where he lives in a van, lives in a break van.
For the time that we were separated, I think he was happy to have the distance between us. The studio was gone. He and I were not on very good terms. And I think that for him, going to Hawaii was like a brave new world, like a getaway for him.
I visited with him while he was there. And he was just going through a bunch of trouble at that time. He kind of like divorced himself from everyone. He was really searching for something himself, really. Marvin was loved by many people. And I think that he knew that. He needed to be loved by Marvin. That was the problem.
Spiraling out of control, Marvin was a 41-year-old falling star. He sought refuge in England, where he was again engulfed by drugs, sex, and another deep depression. Desperate for spiritual redemption, Marvin found a savior in a fight promoter named Freddie Kozar.
Belgium was, in many ways, a last-ditch effort to try to save Marvin Gaye from himself.
It's in Ostend where the air is clear. He's far away from the sort of decadent scene of London or Paris or LA or New York, where he's able to regain a semblance of sanity.
He had gone to Belgium and gotten his life back together. He was running again and keeping himself in shape and doing all those things.
Just let your love come through. He was going to get in the ring again. He was going to fight his way up the charts.
My goal at this point is to just be a better artist. You see, I've gone through 3 years of pretty rough time and sort of forgot my true nature.
Real funky on the floor. Real funky.
Many times I look back on that and I wish that he had just stayed in Belgium.
I was doing a tour and I called Marvin and said, I called him from the airport and said, I'm in town. He said, oh, baby, come on over. And then he said, I got something I want you to hear. And I said, okay. And he put on Sexual Healing. And he says, what you think, baby? I'm like, Marvin, that is brilliant. He says, are you sure you think you're going to like it? I'm like, I love it. And he was so unsure of that.
After a 3-year absence, Marvin returned to the States in triumph. With the breakout hit Sexual Healing for CBS Records, Marvin seemed to have found a balance between his devout and secular desires.
When I listened, I said, okay, yeah, Marvin, you said it right to the point, almost without saying the short of words, you know. But I said, women are going to love this. And sure enough, you know, when he would break off into it, you could hear the women start squealing and howling and throwing their arms up and doing all that. I said, yeah, that's a girl song.
That unmistakable, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, because you do it right. I mean, it was like, wow. You know, you can never forget that. I mean, it was very, very simple, but very poignant. I remember hearing that on the radio and saying, man, Marvin is back. Marvin Gaye came back strong. The Sexual Healing, we knew, was just a monster hit. The only thing that I like, Sexual Healing by Marvin Gaye.
Thank you. Very kind, ladies and gentlemen. I am not very much for speeches. I'm not much of a public speaker. I always say that. I've waited a very long time, 20-some years, to win an award such as this. Thank you, ladies.
Marvin came back to the States from Belgium because his mom was sick. And then he went on tour.
I saw him perform at the Circle Star Theater. It was one of the most amazing shows I've ever seen. I mean, it was just unbelievable. and his voice was back, and he sounded amazing. I went to this hotel room. Wild World of Sports is on in this corner. Wild World of Sports. There's two guys who I assume are kind of bodyguard guys here, and here's Marvin. I kept asking why wasn't he doing